All right, everyone, we are going to be talking about the Duncan v. Becerra case today, but before we do, I wanted to tell you, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure to ring that notification bell. Over 50% of the people watching these videos are not subscribed, and it really helps with the algorithms. We're trying to get this information to as many people out there as we can, and it really does help. So, like I said, if you haven't done it yet, pause the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and ring that notification bell.
So, Kevin, we've been talking about Duncan v. Becerra, and I think we need to talk about it because I do believe the petition has been filed for them to hear it.
Yeah, so I guess a quick breakdown for those who don't know. We filed Duncan v. Becerra, when was it? In 2016?
Correct.
After Gunmageddon. This is the lawsuit that challenged the ban on importation and manufacturing of magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds. We went through the federal court, got a good decision saying that it was unconstitutional to impose that ban. We then went to the Ninth Circuit, where they decided the same thing, which is where Freedom Week came from. If you guys all remember that week, when was it? In April 2019?
Yeah, everybody got to go buy magazines for a week.
Where it was legal in California. I think we imported over 1 million magazines.
Yeah.
But then, it was then appealed to an en banc, which is a larger amount of judges to rehear the case, where for some reason the decision flip-flopped. And now...
Oh, because it was a manipulated group of 11 judges in their favor.
as it has been that way in California for a long time, with the exception of some fine things that President Trump did to the Ninth Circuit. But now we are at the point where CRPA has been able to file its appeal to go to the Supreme Court of the United States. So this is a big step.
It's huge. I mean, we're talking about two things in play. One is, a lot of people in other states might be going, well, we can have standard capacity magazines, which is what they're called. They're not called by a different term the media likes to use, including the President of the United States in his recent State of the Union speech of high capacity. There is no such thing. There is what was designed for that particular firearm, which is a standard capacity magazine. California, we get like 10 rounds or less, depending on what it is. And so the first is for California, obviously, but the second is a favorable ruling on this means that those magazines are protected now in all 50 states. And why that's so important is because if this were to fail, or them not to hear it, there are other Democratic leftist leaning, because there are good Democratic people in the Second Amendment community, but the far left is looking at that they can run these kinds of pieces of legislation if it fails in California and other places. I mean, it's already queued up in some places, ready to go. So it's not just a fight for California is my message. This is a fight for the very fabric of ownership of these parts across the country.
Right, and it's another stepping stone towards finality, I guess. There's a lot of intricacies that really nobody but the attorneys and the law firms need to know about when you're talking about the actual process of getting these lawsuits through the courts. But if there is something that everybody should know, what comes out on the back end is really precedent and scope. And we've talked about both of those things. And it's kind of interesting. You take one step with one case. We already know Rody v. Becerra, where I guess it's Rody v. Bonta now, but, potato. They have already come out and said that they are not going to decide on that case until we get a decision on the Duncan v. Becerra case.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, to help everyone understand that, is because this is the first attack in Duncan v. Becerra on what came out of Prop 63 and Gunmageddon. And now what we're seeing is everybody's saying, okay, well, depending on what happens with that, and like you said, Rody, which goes after the ammunition
regulations,
just nightmare that they put it in this state. It's us unraveling what was done to us by Governor Newsom.
Right, but I mean, what the picture that I'm trying to create is it's almost like a domino effect. Okay, we're not going to have precedent for the Duncan case until the New York case is decided. And that
is probably coming up here in the next 3-4 months.
Right, and that by means is going to create precedent for the Rhodey case. So it is very important for some of these high-profile cases to get good decisions. And I mean, we've already gotten two very substantiated, well-written decisions on this, and you can make heads or tails of the difference between a 3-judge panel and an en banc panel in the Ninth Circuit. But yeah, I mean, this is one step closer. So we're getting there. Is the message here? It's been a long road, and the reason why we are constantly telling everybody, you got to make sure and vote out the elected officials that are going to do this to you. This is how long good case or good lawsuits take. Okay?
And I think it's really important for everyone to understand at many turns in this, people would have thrown in the towel. CRPA did not throw in the towel. We are comprised of Californians. I mean, all of us that work here are Californians. We all could go do things for better money, but we don't because we believe in this fight. And we're here fighting for people day and night. We're not running. We're not buying suits. We're not moving to other states. We're not doing things that other people do in this industry. We're sticking it out to the very end. And this is the proof to all those people that said, well, we'll see. Well, we're there. And so we're continuing to have to raise money to push this across the line, but we're going to push it across the line no matter what. And I think this is a good time for you and I to look at people, because we've been the ones that been in public settings doing this, Kevin, for a couple of years now, of saying, see, we promised and we're delivering. We're going to be there. And now it's going to be up to the Supreme Court.
Well, and there's a lot of conflation out there, and I think that's something that also deserves to be talked about in this conversation. I don't know about you. I know that you go out and you do a lot of speaking. When I'm at chapter meetings, this is something that I've encountered a lot. When you talk about these high-profile cases, especially Duncan and Rhodey, I get somebody coming up to me saying, "Hey, I thought that was insert this organization's lawsuit." Well, they're talking about it, they're calling it their lawsuit, and the distinction, that you really need to make here, or that really needs to be made here, is the difference between somebody who files a lawsuit or somebody who files an amicus brief for that lawsuit.
Right.
Now, I mean, we've been successful in a lot of lawsuits. We've also filed a lot of amicus briefs.
Yeah.
That is just sort of the nature of the community. We want to amicus, by the way, is Latin for friend of the court.
Correct.
But there is a sincere difference between an organization that files a lawsuit and an organization that files an amicus. Now, technically speaking, and I think this is where a lot of the conflation comes from, technically speaking, both of those organizations support the lawsuit.
Yeah,
right?
But I think the clear way that I explain to people, take the New York case that we're waiting for the opinion to come down. We did not file that case. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association filed that case, along with a couple of others on as listed as the plaintiffs. We filed an amicus brief because we believe in it. We see this has to do with scrutiny. And also part of the reason wasn't just to say me too. Like I've explained to people, there's a thing called standing in future court cases. So when you take part as an amicus person inside of a thing, you're building up for your place in other cases to come or maybe existing. The thing is, we're not out there fundraising off of it saying, hey, we did that. No, we're saying we're supporting it. But there have been other groups that, as you've had to explain, I'm sure, and I've had to explain, they have various initials on it. They have said, oh, this is our case, and no, it's not. We appreciate their support. We honor that. We know that they go out and do other cases, and we support when we've talked to them about it. But these are two cases that have been CRPA fighting for Californians, and it's a fight that's done by Californians with their money staying in California.
And that's where these questions, at least in my experience, tend to derive. I got somebody asking me, I want to make a difference in this state. I don't know who to give to. I don't know who to give my time to. My answer to them is always go and look at the documents and see who filed versus who filed amicus. Because if you're around these things long enough, you'll understand that an amicus brief is generally very short, which means an attorney isn't getting billed a whole lot of time to write it, and then it's a very minimal processing fee at the court to actually do it. Whereas, you have to have extensive knowledge, extensive research, extensive time laying out the arguments if you're the person actually filing for the lawsuit and fighting for it in the courts.
Right.
You are then hiring attorneys to actually speak to the court. You're hiring attorneys to do all of that research, to take the time to write it, and to make sure that everything is filed along the way. These are two very different costs. So one of the things that I just wanted to stress is if you're looking to make the difference, just like anything else, you need to do a little bit of research. And that's why we're here talking about CRPA cases. We're trying to keep you informed. Rody v. Becerra, the lawsuit against the ammunition regulations, and Duncan v. Becerra, the lawsuit against the magazine ban, those are CRPA lawsuits.
And I think you've made that clear, but I think the other thing people need to realize is, unlike a lot of other organizations, we're not just focused on the lawsuits. We're focused on bringing programs to different cultural groups, bringing programs to different age levels, making sure that everything we're fighting for in these two landmark cases is being passed on to future generations by bringing those future generations into the community. And I think that's one of the things that is a hallmark of the California Rifle Pistol Association and sets us apart from so many other groups is we are actively fighting on every possible aspect for you and the Second Amendment here in the state of California.
Yeah, and you would be surprised by how quickly the culture can shift in any given location when you win these lawsuits. It's necessary to have on both ends. You have the programs to support the community. So, and that would be our call to you. Help support the community. Help support this channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. We're trying to get this information out to as many people as we can. We need to hit the mark with these YouTube algorithms. So again, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe.